Hello and welcome to Demo 5. We are going to talk about arrays today and the purpose of why we might use an array. So let's get started with the editor, the reference, and the color picker, and then we'll log in and title our sketch. Demo 5 array. And up here at the top of my sketch, I'm just going to put array. And so an array is a collection of variables. And so you know from previous classes and what we've done so far that creating a variable is basically essential to working with code, and if you want to change anything. So an array is simply a collection of variables. So instead of writing out if we go back to like the past class, how we did images, like I had 4 images of eyes and I had I1, I2, I3, I4. And I made variables for all of them. Well, instead of doing that, I could have just made an array that was a collection of all of them. So array is a collection of variables. So the syntax for creating an array is if you just do the keyword let, and then my array, or whatever you want to title your array, and equals open close bracket. So that's an empty array here. So you can put anything inside of your array. So we could put text, images, objects, which we'll talk about later, numbers, colors, anything you really want. So right now, let's keep it simple, and we're going to put a list of numbers. So I'm going to title this array nums, and we'll do just like arbitrary whatever you want. So 22, 55, 6, negative 100. And so these are values that we're putting within our array, and there's a thing called index values. So basically we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 elements in our array so far, but the index value is going to be different from the number of elements. So the index value for this first place here is going to be 0. So in computer language, just get used to counting from 0 instead of 1 first. So like the index value, instead of being 1, 2, 3, and 4, the index would be 0, 1, 2, 3. So our index value in this case is from 0 to 3, even though we have 4 elements. So when you're like calling one specific element within your array, you need to use that index value. So just keep that in mind. And we'll save that bad boy. So let's make, so we'll do let num equal 37, just to show you the difference between using what we normally use, the variable, and then the difference between using a variable or an array. So here, just gonna come over and make my canvas bigger, my preferred size, 800, 600, and we're gonna draw a circle. So we're gonna draw it in the middle, and its size is going to be num. So the variable num that we created is here. And so that size, it would be the same thing as us putting 37 here. So we'll just draw that and change it to num, our variable num, and it's the same size. So else we could type in quick note that if you have your cursor on this line, you don't have to highlight the whole thing. You can just like have the cursor on the line, control and front slash, and it'll uncomment whatever you have. So that's useful. So instead of putting num here, we'll just do our array, and we'll put in, say we want our circle to be 55. So in order to like call the second element in the array, we need to use its index value inside down of the brackets down here. So it's the second in the lineup, but if we count in from 0, 0, 1, it's number 1 in the lineup. So down here where we need to put that index value, we'll just put 1. And so that means that the circle will be 55 in diameter. Oh, I wrote it wrong. Oh, I put num, I didn't change it back to nums. So nums array 1, 55. And if we put in 0, 1, 2, 3, it would be negative 100. So I don't even think we would see anything in that case. Oh yeah, oh, it just switches it, the sign. So let's make this like 300 just so we can easily see the size change. So if it's the first element within the array, that means its index value is 0. So we'll come over here, put in 0. There we go. So one more time, if we want to, here, let's put the last value to 2. So if we want to access the last value, well, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3. We would put in index 3, and it's tiny. Cool, cool. So instead of numbers here, let's go ahead and let's create another array called eyes, and I'll show you what that can look like. It's just a brief reminder of what we did last week, and also how we can combine the lessons. So so we need to preload. So we'll do function and inside of my array that I've created, eyes, I'll just put I1 through 4, I2, 3, and I4. And so the next to it, I'm just going to make a comment, index values 0 to 3 in this case. Cool, cool. So down here, I want to draw the image. So normally we would do like I1 1, 0, 0. And we have to do image mode center. Just a reminder from last week. So here we can, if we want it in the middle, we'll do divided by 2. Width divided by 2, height divided by 2 for the center, image mode center. Okay, so it's popping up with a error. I1 is not defined, so it's still drawing it, but we need to define it as, like, since we've put it in our array, we need to do what we did earlier and call our array eyes, open close bracket, and its spot within the array, which is 0. So now it should draw. Here we've got I1 is not defined in the current scope. So the problem here is that we actually need to make an empty array with the images. So I'm changing let eyes equal open close empty bracket, and I'm gonna put a comment empty array for images. So eyes is empty array. And then down here in the preload, inside of these brackets here, I just need to put its index value. So doing the images is slightly more complicated than the numbers. But it's what you gotta do. So you, for the images, up at the top, let eyes equal empty array. And instead of putting I1, I2, I3, I4, we'll just call our array that we made up top and say eyes. So it's eyes array still, keep it consistent. And then inside we're declaring which index value is what. So for I1, we would now put the index value of 0. I2, index value 1, and so on. So now when we come down and we draw our image, eyes 0 becomes load image I1. Ta-da! So to give us a little bit of interactivity with that, let's do function mouse pressed. So our array is drawing the first element within the list. And so if we come down to the bottom and we want to like cycle through all of the images in the list, we'll create a mouse pressed function. At the very bottom underneath the draw function. So if the mouse is pressed, then index plus equals 1. Index equals index plus 1. And we need to make that variable at the top, so let index. And when we say index, we are referring to our, elements. And so here, instead of 0, we'll put index. So we're creating a variable. We're saying we're putting it in the spot where the index would be declared. And then in the mouse press function, we're moving the index up by 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to put index equal 0. Yeah. Okay, so if index equals 0, so before anything down here, it'll be 0, which will be the first I in the lineup. And every time the mouse is pressed, it increases by 1. So it should go to 2, 3, 4, and then it goes to 5. And since we don't have 5, 6, 7 images, it just stops. So down here, we'll just do index plus equals 1 if, we'll include an if statement, if index is equal to 4, which we don't have, then index goes back to 0. So index equals 0. So if index reaches 4, then go back to the beginning. So if we press play, 1, click, 2, click, 3, click, 4, click. So it's back at the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, click, back at the beginning. Instead of putting 4, we could refer to like the length of the array by putting the name of your array, so eyes.length. So if index is equal to the full length, so if it's gone through all the elements of the array, then go back to 0. So now instead of like putting this like constant number of 4 and then later on we want to like add more images, then we'd have to come all the way back down here and change that number to like 5 or whatever. Instead of doing all of that, we just put eyes.length and not have to worry about it anymore. So no matter how many more elements we add in our eyes array, that every time it gets to the end, it'll start over. And it's not going to be like pink because I forgot to put the color mode in the setup function. Color mode to HSB. There we go. So I've got my light pink, got my eye movement. Okay, so the way that you need to just resize your eyes is just come up in the setup function and do call your eyes array 0 for that index number, and then you do eyes array dot resize in the setup function for now. And I'm just going to put it at 100, 0, so that's X and width. Ta-da! So just a reminder, you need to put 0 for one of these, or else the ratio is going to be off. So if I put 100, 100, it just warps it in a weird way, which you could do. Maybe you want to do that. So I'll just keep my resize at 100x 0 for the Y. So do this for all of your eyes. Copy, paste, paste, paste. Eyes, and then index 1, index 2, and index 3. So we're resizing all of them. Come over here, check to make sure they're all resized, and they are. Cool. Save that. Next thing we need to do is I want to draw all my eyes on the page. So I could come over here and copy and paste here. And there's only 4 eyes, so it really wouldn't take me very long. So I'll just go ahead and do that. And we have to change the location. So let's just do a random location. So random width and random height. And you can put all this in the setup function, or just or you could just for right now, no loop function at the bottom of the jaw. Cool. So do random width, random height for every element. So that's doing things manually. Now we're going to learn how to draw a for loop, because from here to our next project, for loops are going to start being pretty essential, because they make things super fast. So instead of drawing like a million lines of code, you could just use a for loop. So I'm just going to demonstrate how to write that out real quick. So it's for open close parentheses. So for I equals 0, and we're going to use I as the value, but you could use like J or K or whatever, but most people are going to use I. So actually I'm going to just do let I equals 0, making a variable out of I. And then I do a semicolon. And then I'll do if I is less than the amount of elements that we've got here. So less than 4, semicolon, I plus plus. And that for loop needs those open close squiggly brackets. And so just to go over this again, this is an empty for loop. You're always going to have for, and inside of the parameters within the open closed parentheses are going to be, you need to make let I equals 0. That's going to be constant. And then right here, you're going to kind of describe what you want to, like how many elements you want here. So I equals 0 if I is less than 4, or however many elements, 400 or 4,000, then I plus plus. So if I is less than 4, add another piece. So you can draw like a bunch of lines. So if I is less than 100, then all you would need to do is draw. So say I want to do like multiple lines, and I want them to be from, going horizontally across the canvas. So point 1 would start at 0 and go to Y, because I want to change the location on the Y. So I have to make a variable of Y. So 0 to Y, and then it would be, the second point would be located at width. So width Y. And then come up top, create that variable Y, and we'll set it equal to 0 for right now as a starting point. So you can see the line being drawn up at the top. So it's Y is 0, X is 0 to width, and Y is 0. I want to make 4 of these. So I have to do Y plus I. So variable Y, which is equal to 0, right? Plus I. So if I is less than 4, increase by 1. plus I. So now it's creating 4 lines here, but they're super close to each other, just like one after the other, so it looks like a thicker line, but there are 4 lines being drawn. And we can see this more easily if we do y plus equals 5. So that spaces our lines out a bit. And then if because we've still got that no loop down here, they move, like y would increase because they're moving down. So this y plus equals 5 makes them move. We could multiply that by 5 and see what happens. So that also spaces them out. If you wanted to do it a different way, so times 5 for both the y's, and you could space them out even more by multiplying it by 50. Ta-da! You could start it out at 10 on the y-axis, so you could see that top one. And then instead of writing out like all of those lines of code like we did here for the images with the lines, line, we just come up here in the top of the for loop, and if I want it to draw 40 lines, then I'll put 40 and it'll draw 40. I'll go to 10. Ta-da! And you can tweak the numbers and play around with it however you wish. But that is essentially how it just makes your workflow like a lot quicker if you know how to use it. So let's get rid of those lines and try to draw our images here. So image. Eyes, open, close, bracket, and we'll just put I for the index number and a random width and height again. And let's comment that out. Cool, so yeah, so we can see the same thing here. This and this are the same thing. But the cool thing about it is we can go and, you know, easily manipulate the numbers. But considering we don't have more than 60 images, we can't really do that. So we're going to stick it to if I is less than eyes.length, then increase the number. Ta-da! So another little thing we can do is since we have the for loop and we want to add more elements, we could use this thing called push. Eyes dot push eyes cool. Yeah, so if we do eyes dot push and then inside we've got eyes open close bracket with our variable of I inside of it, this will add an I to the end of our array. Push does this. Push adds I to end of array. And so now instead of being like cut off at 4, we can make 10 or we can make 100. Ta-da! So that's a pretty useful tool. Save that bad boy. And another thing that we need to know is that if we do eyes.pop, so this removes the last item from the end of array. So this could be useful for those of you who were like creating arrays with your mouse for the last project. And if you played the sketch for too long, then your sketch started like lagging. So you need to go in, because it's constantly pushing a new item and it can like fill up and your computer like may not be able to like handle that. So you can go in and put pop, removes the first item from the, so eyes.pop would like remove the last item. So that actually isn't how you would fix that problem. You would instead do use the shift command. So you do like your array.shift, and this removes the first item from the array. And so shift is gonna be how you fix that lag. So we've got a bunch of eyes being drawn at random locations. And if we do no loop, whoa, craziness. So if it's instead you do want it to move, but you just want it to slow down, in the setup function, you could do write frame rate. So the function frame rate, capitalizing the R, just changes the frame rate, the speed. So sometimes you want to use this, sometimes you don't. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and do it. And it's sort of like glitchy, but it slows things down a little bit. Cool. Okay, so we're going to do one more tutorial, I think, or two more. So this one I've started by, in my create canvas, I did window inner width, window inner height, color mode to HSB here. Changed my background color to a light purple. And up top, I've created two arrays. So I have my array X and my array Y. And the reason why it's an array is because I did equal, open, close, bracket. And this is an empty array right now. So this is the start of my collection of X coordinates and my collection of Y coordinates. So the point here is that I want to, every time I click into my canvas, I want to draw a circle. So I could do circle here. I could do the mouse X, mouse Y, and make it 50, its diameter 50. Right? So that's just following my mouse X, mouse Y. But I want to do if mouse is pressed, right? So let's just put the background up top. If mouse is pressed, then I'm adding a bunch of circles. Ooh, and I can draw with it. But I don't want to be able to draw with it. We're making in these collections of coordinates here. So instead of mouse X here, I'm going to put my array X and my array Y. And I'm going to do create a for loop so that I can draw many of these circles. So for let I equals 0, if I is less than, we'll just say 10, I plus plus, and in the array we'll include that I variable on the X and Y of the circle. Okay. And then down at the bottom, let's do a function mouse clicked. So if mouse is clicked, then I want to do my array X dot push. So push another. And my array Y dot push. So if the mouse is clicked, the X and Y will be pushed at mouse X here and mouse Y. So every time I click, I add another in my array, which I've limited myself to 10. Yeah. So I just put the shift above the push here. And so, yeah, so what it's doing now, shifting forward, so it's allowing us to like continue drawing using our array. Okay, quick reiteration of what we've got. So we have created empty X collection of X coordinates and Y coordinates. We have drawn a circle inside of a for loop so that we can draw many circles. So if we take away that for loop, you know, we can't go in and draw all those circles. So we're able to draw multiple circles with the for loop. Inside of the circle, it's going to be placed at my array X, my array Y, and pushed here at mouse X and mouse Y. So many circles can be drawn, and they're all going to be drawn at our mouse X, mouse Y location. Size is 50 in diameter, and just, you know, continuously pushed. And then if we put the shift here, I think that's going to save us from just like overloading our computer. Cool. So now let us change the size of our circle. So let's create a circle size variable up top. Circle size equal 5 at first. Then we can do circle size plus equals 0.5 to increase the size. So when we draw, we're going to draw a circle that is growing here. And then we could do an if statement. So like if circle size is greater than or equal to 100, then change direction. So I've got some pulsing circles. So here, every time you click the mouse, it adds a XY coordinate to our arrays. It adds a value to our arrays. Just going to move the background down to the draw function again. So in the mouse clicked, let's just type if my array x.length is greater than 5, we're going to shift and push mouse and Y. Else, we're going to push the arrays. Cool. So now, just because of this little code snippet right here, if my array length is greater than 5, and we moved the background back up to the setup function so we can see this better, actually, then it's shifting and pushing. So now we can't have more than 5 dots here. Changing the for loop to 100 here. Okay, so now whenever we click past 5, it goes to the mouse X, mouse Y location. Okay, so we've got our array, 2 arrays of the X and Y coordinates. The size is changing, the array is shifting, and now we can go back to what we talked about previously and include the pop. So if you just do if mouse button, which is referring to the mouse buttons like right, left, and center. You can also do mouse wheel, I think, but if mouse button is equal to center in all caps, then pop, or it would be my array x dot pop and my array y dot pop. So pop is just getting rid of the last element in the array. So press play. And then we press the mouse's center button. It's just going to get rid of the elements. And then if we come over here in my array length, here we're like shifting it and I want to place more dots. So I'm just going to change this number to 500. So I can put as many as 500 circles here and then press the center button. And you see it doesn't do it all at one time. It does like it in a, it like gets rid of the ellipses in a line from like last to first. And it's getting rid of all of them because I have it in the draw function. So we can move it to maybe mouse clicked, or create another function there. But this is fine for right now because I just want to get rid of all of them. Cool, so the color is kind of boring, so I'm just going to change the fill to cycling through the colors. Make my variable C. Let C equal 0. And C plus equals 1. C equals C modulo 360. And I'm gonna give it a stroke of C as well. But if we press play, we won't be able to see the stroke because it's the same color as the circle. So I'm just gonna offset it with C plus 100 here, so that we can see the changing color of the stroke. Now I can create a bunch of pulsing circles with my mouse clicked. And I can get rid of them with my center button. And yeah, so I think that's good for the demo here today. But in class, we'll talk more about what an array is useful for and how y'all can maybe implement it in your upcoming assignment and projects. So happy coding.